hope I'm not too late to talk about this because it is a very important issue. Hey guys, it's Amy here, back again with another video. I'm just gonna cut to the chase. In 2022, we've seen a lot of racists online. The most recent example of this, to the day that I am recording this, is the live-action Little Mermaid trailer, in which Halle Bailey plays Ariel. Halle Bailey is a black actress, in case you didn't know. Ariel was not black in the original version, and this has upset a lot of people. Frankly, with the opinions they're making and the defenses that they have, they don't deserve the privilege of being called people. They didn't deserve it when talking about Rings of Power or Percy Jackson either. That's right, it has happened 3 times this year, to my knowledge, alone. In 2022! This video is going to prove those racist bigots wrong, and it's also going to explain why this kind of stuff is happening. Why these people are acting such a way, and why these decisions are being made by companies to put black actors into positions that were originally white, intentionally white. I don't know what to call it, and yet I'm making this video. First, a disclaimer. I recognize that I am a white person talking about this issue. This may be an issue that affects people of color, but it's still something that I want to talk about and that I want to let people know about. Representation has been something that I have studied in university, and that I continue to do so throughout my day-to-day life. There are other people who have been talking about this anywhere and everywhere online. I have been listening to them as best as I can to be able to come up with this video as one sort of little bunch. So do take everything that I am saying with a grain of salt. This phenomena that we are witnessing has a name. It's racial gatekeeping. I was about to say yay, but that is very wrong to say yay to this. Racial gatekeeping is just a fancy way to say that these people are racist. But the thing is, they think they have a valid reason to be racist in the context of this. And because of that context, they don't think they are actually racist. What is that context? The source material that they know like the back of their hand. Is that a new freckle? We already know that gatekeeping is when one fan denies the legitimacy of another fan's enjoyment for a particular piece of media. No matter how much a person likes or partakes in it, the gatekeeper is always the one that has the say on whether or not this person's part of it, it being the fandom. For instance, the only legitimate Lord of the Rings fans are the ones who read the books. This is usually to do with how much the gatekeeper has indulged itself in everything to do with this particular media. Reading all the books, scouring all the wikis, even going to the compendiums and looking into the information surrounding all the extra pieces. Gatekeepers often call themselves the experts on said subjects. But here's the thing, they're not. The original creators are. You know, the authors, the directors. Furthermore, people like these gatekeepers, whether they are racial or otherwise, end up giving their fandoms a bad name. Turning their fandoms into mean girls, where their popularity is based on their untouchability rather than how nice and enjoyable the actual content is. Shot through the heart, and you're to blame. You give fandoms a bad name. So when we get into the racial gatekeeping context, these gatekeepers are determining how a certain character should look. In these most recently publicized cases, it's whether or not these characters should be black. The gatekeepers are claiming that these black people don't belong. The main reason these gatekeepers get upset at seeing this happen is because they completely miss the point. They are swimming so deep within the waters of their fantasy world that they don't see what's on the surface. It's a reverse iceberg. People who make these decisions to cast black actors are prioritizing representation over what these gatekeepers refer to as authenticity. But in most cases, their authenticity is just a status quo that needs breaking. Not to assume or call out anything, but these people getting mad at what's happening in The Little Mermaid, Rings of Power, and Percy Jackson, they are most likely going to be white people. There will be outliers to this. There may be some people of color who are upset, and there may be some white people who support this decision. But historically, whites have had a lot of privilege, and in the media it is no exception. So when that privilege appears to be taken away from them, it is very likely they're going to get upset because they see it as stealing rather than giving someone else a turn and sharing the stage. Because the main reason these decisions were made was to support people of color. It was not to appease whatever rock-solid vision these other people had. But enough theory, let's get into some examples. They're spicy. This astonishes me as someone who has made a video calling out Disney for all of their bad representations. They're doing something potentially good here. Little Mermaid was blind casted. For those unaware, blind casting is when a role can be ambiguous. Sometimes this could be gender ambiguous, but in the case of the Little Mermaid, they were being racially ambiguous. Compare this to the original animated movie, which was very white, aside from a Jamaican crab, which I still don't understand to this day. People are upset that Ariel isn't white. And you know that they are truly upset when they go and do research, baby! Biased research. Facts that only prove their point. That's what they're looking for. Two main arguments have come up from this research. The first is that mermaid folklore comes from the Mediterranean, which a lot of European countries border the Mediterranean Sea. Therefore, Ariel has to be white because of the Mediterranean Sea. Let's just get a map up here real quick, shall we? Oh, look at this! The Middle East is there too! Oh, that's lovely! And even 5 countries in Africa! Africa! Halle Bailey is African American! Also, mermaid folklore is not European exclusive. It comes from a lot of different cultures, just with different names and contests. There's like a Native American version of mermaids, for example. The second argument has of course been the source material argument, that Ariel was white in the original movie, so she has to be white in the live action movie, for authenticity's sake. But oh boy, do you know how much Disney deviated from the original Little Mermaid story? Might I present this treasury of Hans Christian Andersen? The unnamed mermaid in this story had deep spiritual connections as her primary goals that Disney completely eradicated. She never got married to a prince. She just wanted an immortal soul and to be able to go into the afterlife. So you claiming that it's not original to the source material looks stupid when Disney didn't even go original to the source material. But in terms of racial depictions and experiences, let's just go to page 58 real quick. There were 6 lovely mermaids. The youngest was the most beautiful. Her complexion was as fine as the petal of a rose and her eyes as blue as the deepest lake. But just like everyone else down there, she had no feet. Her body ended in a fishtail. Where does it say her skin color? For all we know, the Little Mermaid could have purple skin. But at least she has the complexion of a rose petal, so no scars or pimples or freckles. So that's one group proven wrong. Let's move on to the next one. The Lord of the Rings fanbase is currently at war over whether or not black elves should belong in Middle-earth since their depiction in Rings of Power. The main reason this argument has come up, from what I remember, is that Lord of the Rings movies are bafflingly white. I haven't read the books myself to know how accurate either depiction is. But let's look into some comments some people had just to see how stupid their validations and their research really is. In an age before cars and planes, how would people whose skin and facial features are evolved on the savanna of Africa be intermixed in tiny rural villages with people whose skin evolved in gloomy Ireland? Could you show me on a map where Africa and Ireland are in relation to Middle-earth? It's a fantasy world, people! Anything could happen! Also, if you're taking that kind of stuff into account, let me tell you how people with darker skin would have gotten there. Immigration! On boats! The end of the 3rd Lord of the Rings movie literally features a boat! Boats exist in this universe! Oh, but that is not the worst comment. Let's take a look at this guy. Browner of skin means tanned white. Similar to people who work in the sun, as they are in a temperate environment like England. I think this guy needs to go back to primary school, preschool, elementary school, whatever level of school they need to go to learn basic color theory, the kind of color theory that I learned when I was 4. A tanned white guy is not brown. I bet this guy thinks that black coffee has got 89% milk in it. And then, of course, the thousands of comments saying that it is not Tolkien's vision. I've never seen Tolkien once say anything about this, because he has passed away. Would you know what his vision is, exactly? Were you best buds? Did you ever meet him? Were you his family? Oh, no! You wrote this book, and J.R.R. Tolkien is just a pen name! You don't know what his vision is, just face it, you're racist. And you're using a dead man to validate that whether or not he was as racist as you are. Okay, now we move on to the final one, which frankly has got the most heated opinions and the ones that I find the most stupid. Percy Jackson is being adapted into a show by Disney+, which the Percy Jackson fandom has been so excited for, especially since we had very terrible movie adaptations. That was until the fandom went at war over Annabeth being played by a black girl, Leah Jeffries. For those unaware, the main reason people got upset with this is because Annabeth in the books written by Rick Riordan is blonde. And people have argued that her being blonde plus being a daughter of Athena means that she is breaking the dumb blonde stereotype. Leah Jeffries being casted loses the integrity of the novel. Being dumb is not exclusive to being blonde? And if I remember correctly, Annabeth was never once called dumb. Her being dumb was never a part of her character arc. It was about her proving herself and finding validation because she had a family who nearly neglected her. That is not a story exclusive to blondes. Furthermore, if you're really upset about the whole blonde thing, Jeffries could just wear a wig or dye her hair. I haven't seen you get this upset over white people having these differences when they're casted. Oh, Harry's meant to have green eyes! And then, of course, the whole author vision comments. Rick Riordan was part of the casting process, and the casting process did not care about the racial identity of people. Just as long as they could play the character authentically, then they would be very much good for the role. A casting process which, from Riordan's statement, took over a year. He released a whole-ass statement defending her and calling out the people who were racist towards her for missing the message of Percy Jackson. A hero could come from anywhere, no matter what kind of differences that they have. The difference makes their strength. With every book he has released, Riordan has been more and more inclusive of people from different backgrounds because the message of his story in the first place was to make marginalized people feel like heroes. He made Percy Jackson so that his own son who had dyslexia could feel like a hero. And now he's done that with more people, racially, sexuality-wise, gender-wise, cisgender, trans. He's done a lot. So part of it was his decision, and I trust his decision. To quote Riordan and his statement, "If you're still upset about the casting of this marvelous trio, then it doesn't matter how many times you have read the books. You didn't learn anything from them." And now my 2 cents about this entire thing. From all 3 pieces of media, from Little Mermaid, Rings of Power, and Percy Jackson. It says a lot about a person if they care more about the authenticity of a story, with quotation marks around authenticity, than they do about entire marginalized populations. Recognize that your little opinion is not upsetting 27 people. It's upsetting millions, and you're too blind to see that. The world has changed, so stop clinging onto the edge of this train that you think you have a ticket to ride on. You're not going to get that ticket until you show some respect to these people. Until you welcome everybody into your life, listen to what they have to say, and have active changes and active steps to make sure they feel more and more welcome. I listened, and that's why I decided I had to make this video. And I don't want any applause from that. I don't want any applause from my revelations of the things that I've done. I just want to let people know who are affected by this directly, by all this hate, that I am on your side. Let's drown out those hateful voices. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new around here. You can ring that bell to find out when I post more creative content. This is where I usually promote my book, but I think something else should be promoted instead. I really love to talk about representation in this kind of situation, and I have made a lot of videos surrounding that with my own personal discussions and other little bits of research that I have done. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give that playlist a watch too, and let me know some of your thoughts. Also, head in the description to find my Instagram, my Fiverr, my TikTok, and my website. Stay creative, everybody, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.